What's going on, everybody? Time for episode number 114 of Truth. That's right. We'll set you free. I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to get in here. Cannot wait to have you. We got a special guest for this episode. Bobby Sauce actually just entered the back room, so we'll get started shortly. Please share this out to give you an idea what we're talking about. We're talking post-election, trying to find truth and what we know, what we don't know, all the above. We're going to talk a little FTX, of course, as we know. If you don't know what that is yet, you're about to know. Student loan forgiveness halted, of course, right after the election was over by a judge in Texas. And we might even really quick talk about what we think Trump is announcing in a couple hours. Really, we've got a lot of speculation, maybe not a ton of truth this evening, but we will get into all of that. So while you guys are jumping in the room, please come on in, share it out, hit the like button, share from all the different channels, including Great American Syndicate. Truth will set you free on both YouTube and Facebook. So obviously we know where we're at right now. It has been a hell of a week and a full week, might I add, after the election. We've just now finally tallied, for the most part, the votes. And one of two things can be said about this country. Either we've been duped or we've been robbed. And honestly, adding one more option is both. How is it that we're the freest, fairest, supposed country in the world, but we still have doubt on our election process? And worse yet, if we do doubt it, for obviously logical reasons, we're deemed insane. If I say logically, there's a problem when there's cameras going out for 8 hours overnight, in-person voting without paper and ink, tabulators not working, Republicans being told they don't have ballots for them, and places taking 6 or 7 days to count votes. And the left simply looks at me and my post and says, yeah, but where's your proof? I believe as though I just said it. Cameras out, places out of ink and ballots, tabulators not working, missing ballots, and an egregious amount of time to calculate the vote. Oh, and if you want me to go back to 2020, we have information suppression from the FBI on a huge laptop story on the son of the now sitting president of the United States of America. If you don't believe all the other stuff, of course, to which I still get, so you have no proof. Am I living in an absolute, are we living in an absolute bizarro world or something? And last time I checked, in 2016, they kept going on and on about Cambridge Analytica, the Russians, yada, yada, all of that actually debunked. But yes, let's keep trying to silence those that question basic logic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get started with the show. So I'm going to go straight to the countdown. Let's get going with The Truth Will Set You Free. Time to bring up all of our guests. We've got, of course, Dave, Barb, and the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Sauce. Been a long time. How are you doing, brother?
Doing well. World is stupid. Everything is still dumb. Not surprised by any of this malarkey. And we're right back where we started, except it's worse. So good times.
You know what's funny, Bobby? The last time you and I did a show kind of like this was probably like a year and a half ago. And I remember that your tone went from, at that point, funny to, what are we going to, like, this is serious. This isn't a joke anymore. This isn't a bunch of influencers getting on and kind of BSing about the problems. Like, this is serious. This is a problem. And I think that, well, we're seeing the byproduct of all of that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've always paid attention to politics. I've always cared about it. I've always been interested in it, but I always felt disconnected from the ability to influence it. And I always felt like no matter how much you push, it was in the bag. Donnie was the first person to really change the belief that the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, always has a firm grip on everything. So seeing him was like, wait, maybe it could be different. Maybe there could be a change in it and we actually could affect it. And now that we lost or whatever in 2020 and all of the fights leading up to now, I really thought that this midterm was like the final show where it's like, hey, look, they screwed it up. Let's switch it. And it's proved to be not that not what we thought it would be. So it's very disappointing, but I really just don't know where to go from here other than to keep fighting and never give up. But it's like they seem to be kind of screwing everybody pretty consistently.
Facts. Well, let's do a little intros there, buddy. See what's going on in your lives. Dave, Barb, what's cracking? Let's start with ladies first. Barb, how's life by the fireplace?
Oh, well, thank you. It's far away from Dave in the other room over there. I gave him the farting dog, so I'm good.
Good thing the fireplace could be dangerous if the farting dog was in there.
This is true. And Bobby, I hear you. I hear all of that. A couple days ago, I was like, I just literally just freaking depressed and down, and it's over, and I quit, and I give up. I'm go live in the pineapple under the sea, Bobby. But
yeah, that's a good idea. Good strategy.
But I feel like I got it back, and I was like, oh, hell no. And I had to look a little deeper, and I have to say, it sucks. There's no doubt it sucks. And especially Arizona, like what the hell? But you know, the Fetterman thing, but I don't actually think all is lost. I think maybe we underestimated the might of the machine that we are all up against. And so to expect that we were going to have this glamorous sweeping red wave and all this, thanks, Kimberly. I think we overestimated that. I think we need to focus on what the ground we did gain, which is getting Congress back, getting rid of Pelosi, getting rid of Maloney. I think those are huge things. And from there, and all the seats we won in New York, look at Florida turned red. I think there's a lot of good things that happen. So I think we need to focus on that and study where things went right there and do more of that before we just kind of surrender and give up. And because I feel like first step, we have to get rid of, you know, the Democrat power, and then we have to clean up the Republicans. So it's like a 1-2.
Yeah, seriously.
But I think we made a little nudge forward. Just we didn't take that giant leap we wanted, but I think we made it. We have a toehold now, where before we didn't.
Something we got. I mean, it sounds like we got the House. I mean, and I think we.
Yeah.
Did. Dave, what do you got going on?
You know, I wasn't as devastated as I was 2 years ago when I thought the whole thing really was totally rigged against Trump under the guise of
Allegedly
keeping everybody safe with COVID and mail-in ballots and all that stuff. But I was still really disappointed. I mean, I think out of all of us, was calling for like a tsunami, like something
unlike the red waves coming.
Yeah, like I saw it as something that no one's ever seen in this country in like over 100 years. Like that's the way I looked at this, because Joe is that bad and things are that crazy with 40-year inflation, you know, 40-year high in terms of, you know, border crossings, I mean, all the stuff that Bobby always talks about, you know, the world being trash. I mean, it is literally trash in America right now. It's horrible. And I was like, there's no way that we're not going to just ride this tidal wave right over every single Democrat that's in office. But then sitting back now, I reflect a little bit and I kind of dial it back and look at things a little more logically. You know, these midterms weren't really ideally set up for Republicans. You know, we had to protect a lot of our seats. And then you had the abortion ruling that came out. And then you had, you know, Biden pushing student loan forgiveness and the January 6 hearings and the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid. All these things drove, I think, Democrats, you know, to the polls. And I think we underestimated the power of those things to keep things status quo. But I'm with Barb. Like, a lot of wins. Florida is amazing. What Ron DeSantis is doing is amazing. And there's not one single Democrat in office in Florida right now. Nancy Pelosi's gone, like, hallelujah. And I think we have a lot to look forward to for 2024, because I think it sets us up really well. Democrats have a lot at risk in 2 years. I don't think things are going to get that much better. I think they're only probably going to get worse, which is also, you know, beneficial to us. So we'll see. I'm positive. I'm remaining positive. I'm optimistic. Yeah. And I still think our future is bright.
So I think what we're going to do is
we'll go to shit a little more.
And Barb, and I was with you. You and I were texting. I'm like, this feels like the end. Like, is this where we give up or not? Like, I don't even know, because I feel like our freedom of speech is just getting worse and worse. And yes, I know it's a private platform, but you can go piss off. I mean, look what's happening to Elon, who's trying to actually be a bastion of free speech, is just getting annihilated by everyone right now there to shut him down. But we'll get into that in a second. Last thing before we do, real quick, to talk about the Great American Syndicate. Bobby, you've had a lot going on in the last year and a half. You've got a whole new setup behind you. Seen you on Newsmax, seen you on, I think, OAN as well.
Yep.
So what's been going on in your life? I mean, part of politics, but aside from just the news.
I actually started doing stand-up. So I did my first show with Chad Prather in May and opened for him and did a 20-minute set, my first ever stand-up comedy show. And I'm actually doing 5 shows now with him this week in Southwest Florida. So the first show is tomorrow night, then Thursday, Friday, and 2 shows on Saturday. So that's pretty exciting. And then actually doing 3 additional comedy shows, stand-up comedy shows in December in the west part of Florida, Orlando, and then in Boca Raton with Terry McNeely and another guy by the name of Mike Merck. So that's pretty exciting. So now it's like a real world connection of all the other things. So I'm really excited about that. That's kind of the thing I've been focusing on the most lately.
And do you have a pod as well now, or are you?
Yeah. I basically took the live stream that I was always doing, and I just called it the Bobby Sauce Show. So now it's all on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that good stuff. And now it's like in high definition with the good mic and the whole to-do. But the same old yelling, the same thing it always was.
Just better microphone and better background. Cool.
Basically, I mean, a lot better, but yeah. and lighting and like the whole thing. And I try to think of it as a show. I try to be real cognizant of the preparation and a bunch of other things. Before I would just go live and sometimes just kind of BS, but now I have like a pretty good idea of what I'm going to talk about and like a pretty decent prepared monologue and stuff.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, guys, and I know Bobby Sauce is probably going to be a part of it. But Dave, go ahead. We've got the date set in place for the Great American Summit round number 2, which will be June 2nd and 3rd. Really quick, explain that and where people can find more information on it for now.
So June 2nd and 3rd, Gillies, right, Barb, in Dallas, Texas.
It is.
Yep.
Make sure I pronounced it right.
Yeah.
Great venue. We don't have the website out yet where you can buy tickets, but when I visited, when I was in Florida about a month or so ago, Bobby and I met, and he had a great idea in terms of offering a really great promo, like pre-sale for like 500 people, super discounted tickets. So what we're going to do, we're going to have our early bird special is going to be 500 tickets, first come, first serve. Like when they're gone, they're gone. And it's going to be $50, basically $75 for one ticket, $100 for 2 tickets. And so we're going to be rolling that out probably within the next week. If that's something you want to take advantage of now, I would probably maybe DM Anthony that you want kind of secure your spot in line. And as soon as the website is up and the tickets are available, we'll shoot it out to you.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, learn more about that. Also, we're looking still for if anybody wants to be a Patriot Pass holder, which means you've got access to, maybe have some time to talk to me, Dave, Barb, Bobby, and then whoever the speakers will be for this coming year. And then if you want to learn more about the Syndicate, which is a group, which is kind of you're into this whole thing to learn more, go to greatamericansyndicate.com to just learn a little bit more about that. Last but not least, if you like the gear that I always wear right now, I'm wearing the Live Each Day Like It's 9/12/01. We, of course, have the Not a Single One of Us Regrets Not Taking It. All those good things. Check out the website at awakenotwokestore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. This weekend, by the way, I will have Cash's interview. We just did a full blunt force discussion while he is in jail. It'll be about 45 minutes to an hour long, somewhere around there. It's going to be unlisted. So just make sure you go to #BeTheChange.com or be a Great American Syndicate follower. Make sure that link goes out first there before we make it live to everyone so you can see that interview. All right, let's first talk about the election. We kind of already covered it. And again, this is where we're trying to separate truth from fiction. What was it? What was the cause? What was the cause of the as Barb put it on our text message earlier, the blue ball of the red wave, or the blue wall of the red wave. What do you think is the issue? I've been talking on radio all week about it, but there's a myriad of different thoughts. What does Dave? What do you think the issues were?
The issues. I mean, I think it really boils back down to mail-in ballots. Like, I think COVID forever changed the way we run our elections, and Democrats from day one embraced that change, while Republicans are like, vote on election day in person, stand in line. When I think we need to, after this election cycle, we need to adapt. Like, if mail-in ballots are not going away, especially in specific states, which I think there's about 9 where they do mass, they send out a mail-in ballot to basically every registered voter. And ballot harvesting is not illegal in some states, I believe. We need to embrace that. We need to get in the game. It's not just about turnout anymore on election day. So I think we dropped the ball on that. And I think clearly, and this is, I can attest to this just from my personal experiences, like with my kids, Barb kids, like the younger generation. Turning Point is doing a great job at pushing against this, but that young demographic really turned out this election cycle. And so I think Lee Zeldin, what he did here in New York, is a good model going forward. Going into places where typically Republicans don't campaign or stump, like going actually into the city, going into Brooklyn, going into Harlem, going into the Bronx. I think that needs to be done with conservatives in every city across America. Like, why are these cities only blue? Like, why can't we make an impact and start pulling away some people on the Republican side? Because I think most of America is center right. And if we actually develop a good message and surround, with, and the message is around what's affecting people the most in terms of the economy and education and their kids, and the border, I think we can make some change here and some inroads. But we have to embrace mail-in balloting, and we have to start going into places and campaigning into places where typically Republicans don't go.
Yeah, I think mail-in balloting, fixing that is a great idea, but much the same as term limits. I think right now it's almost a pipe dream. So because the people that want the mail-in balloting are also in power. So I think that's hard. Baba, what do you got? Why did the red wave not happen?
Well, I think that, I mean, it depends on what you want to believe is going on, but I would wager that ballot harvesting is the primary issue. I would say that, I saw some statistic, I think it was in Michigan, where it was like some university had a 98% voted for Gretchen Whitmer and 2% voted for Tudor Dixon or something like that.
Arizona State was 95-5.
Yeah. So it's like, to me, it's like, that's to me, I would wager that that's like some ballot harvesting. It's like the amount of time and effort that it takes for a single person to be convinced to go out and cast their vote to be wiped away by an 18-year-old that just wants to be part of the crowd. It's like, I've said it from the very beginning. I think that the progressive left is better at marketing. They just are. And it certainly doesn't hurt that they happen to have the control of every possible information source, all the social media. It's like they have everything, because it's not even them. They're just being stewards for the daemons that are really running the entire planet. They just represent the kind of polished, good front-facing thing that gives people the illusion that they're actually doing something for them and not just completely destroying everything. So I think that the ballot harvesting and the I was looking for a word that's not what I said last night. The screwery, I guess you could say, with the ballots. It's like, to me, it seems like all this stuff is pointless without ballot harvesting laws and election integrity. It's like, I thought before, like, maybe if everybody just turned out and there was everything was bad at the same time and you got pretty good candidates and everybody was riled up, could it turn it? And it's like, it didn't. It's like, if you're going to sit there and tell me that Katie Hobbs actually got more votes than Carrie Lake when the Republican Secretary of State got more votes than her, I don't know what planet you're living on, because to me, it's just seems, and they're so good at marketing. God, it kills me. They're going to election deny before it even happens. Like they do the stuff and then they preemptively say that this is what they're going to say because that is what in fact that they're doing. And then when it comes, they're like, see, we said that they were going to deny it. It's an election denier. They're so good at branding. It's insane. And sloganeering. So it's just like with ballot harvesting and universal mail-in ballots and not cleaning up the voter rolls and no voter ID, I don't see how a Republican wins an election fair and square ever again.
I agree. I think the left is, and I hate to say like a blanket statement like this, but the left is bad at math because logic and math go together. And if you look at the actual tallies in many of the states and many of the actual municipalities, all the votes, the standard based on polling, there is a standard deviation. That standard deviation, typically, if it's 2 to 6%, wherever it is almost never broken. It was broken across the board on this election. 2% ended up being 6%. 4% became a 9% win. And it just doesn't make any sense. You can go election by election and see that there was issues in states where they have not fixed their election process, which makes you go, well, that's really weird. This is odd. I think it's interesting. One of the biggest elections in the country was that everybody had to focus on was the Senate in Georgia, and Warnock and Walker. They actually were right there. That was predicted. That was predicted to be that close. So, and the thing is, Kemp has shored up their election process. He has done a good job of making sure Georgia does not have the problems it had in the past. And look what we got, something that matched the actual polling. Whereas in the rest of the country, none of it did. And also from a mathematical standpoint, you have got a whole country worth of toss-ups, a whole bunch of toss-ups. You can't tell me that 90% of toss-ups going in one direction doesn't seem a little bit odd. With that said, I do think there is actually one issue that was a problem, but I will let Barb go first, and then I'll go back to that before we finish up this topic. Barb, why do you think it happened?
I think it's multifaceted. All the things that you guys just said, yes, 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 and yes. But I think now we really understand their tactics and their techniques. And I hate speaking like this. I hate that it's like pitting Americans against Americans. So, I mean, I don't like talking like this, but it is what it is. And we have to do it this way. Like y'all said, these are the rules of the game. We can't cry and complain anymore if we don't get in the arena. Like the time to sit back and claim that, but like, oh, we can't do this. That's not right. I don't like it being, we've always done it this way, so we can't do it a new way. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot there. It's time to adapt and overcome. And instead of trying to push and swim against that tide, we have to swim with it now and just go and send it and turn that into the wave next time, right? Because we're swimming up against it. We need to just go with it and figure it out. I think abortion is the holy grail for people. I think especially the younger, I know women my age or young or a little younger who have kids, even some, or moms who have kids who are like 8 years old, 9 years old, 15 years old daughters. And they're like, I want to make sure my daughter can have an abortion. That's the most important thing. I'm like, your kid is 8 or 11 years old. And the most important thing to you, the most important thing in this election, forget about the borders, forget about national security, forget that the world sees us as weak and China is gearing up and we're all divided and fentanyl's coming across and the economy is going to shit and people can't forget crime and stuff, like forget all of those things. You want to be sure what's most important to you is that maybe someday your daughter might need an abortion. Like, let's not focus on the fact, let's not focus on maybe keeping her safe in the streets. Let's not focus on decreasing the risk of her being sexually assaulted, where an abortion would be an issue in your family, right? Let's not talk about, preserving yourself and safe sex and all that, where abortion would come into play. Let's not talk about any of that. Let's just keep the fact that we need abortion as the thing. Forget about the criminals coming across the borders. Forget about defunding the police, creating more crime. Forget about inflation. People can't afford everything. People are getting more desperate. Forget about all of that, right? They were so freaking triggered by that, by the Holy Grail. They just
they flooded the airways with that, right? Every super PAC, every political ad was, this Republican is for is against abortion at every level, and they just hit the airwaves over and over. They beat it like a drum.
But here's the problem, And I agree. And that was going to be my biggest issue. And this is what I said several months ago. This is a problem. I see this being a problem. Here's the biggest problem is somehow the polling data told the Republicans to go heavy on being pro-life. I think just the same way you say that the crazy mom at home that like, why does she care about her 11-year-old? How is it that the Republicans didn't get a gauge on the country and realize what's most important? Fentanyl, the borders, crime, all these different things, our economy. How did we not get a gauge and go, you know what? If we want to win, let's look at real data. Because in the end, after the election, it showed that the number 2 thing behind the economy was abortion, whereas the polls the Republicans were touting and following said that people didn't care about abortion anymore. It was down at 6th or 7th level, whereas the true polls, it showed. Because the last thing I'll say on this is take a conservative. Most conservatives are pro-life. There is not going to be a single independent voter that is going to go, you know, my number 1 topic to shift over to the right is going to be abortion. We miscalculated on a mass marketing level that the Democrats got. They went heavy on the Republicans for being pro-life, and the pro-life Republicans, which was most, went heavy on being pro-life. Look at DeSantis. In Florida, there is a 15-week abortion law. That is somewhere where you have come to the middle ground. Abbott is one of the only winners that has a very, very strict abortion law. A ban, essentially. Besides that, the middle of the abortion topic won. Why? Because it took that standard deviation of votes, the 2 to 4% to 5%, and made it unwinnable to people. And again, I do think that it was rife with issues and friggity it was fraudulent. I'll say it with an L. There was problems. There was drastic problems. I get that. But in the end of the day, we knew we had to win big. And that took us a step back.
Yeah.
I think on the pro side, I think that just kind of confirms that the Supreme Court is not politically based and like Trump's people, because they had to know that ruling was really going to help to work towards sinking the Republicans in this election cycle. Like they had to be aware of the political implications, and they set that aside and made the ruling that they were going to make. So I think that has deflated the argument a little bit that they are political. I think where the left is like, oh, look, they're all like politically inclined. They were going to come do this, whatever. They knew that their ruling was going to deflate the Republican momentum. And they did it anyway. They could have waited. They could have held it off. They could have done anything. Like, was it Biden asking the Saudis to wait on the oil announcements and all that until after the midterms? They could have done that to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court just went ahead and sent it, knowing it was going to kind of sink us.
There's 56 people to choose from. We still don't know who leaked it. I mean, but again, there was a way to spin out of that. And instead of the Republicans looking at the the importance of winning the overall election, they doubled down on something that it's a losing proposition. And that's typical Republican bullshit.
Yes. I think that I have a decent view of this, which is the Republican conservative view of things is based on logic and reason and facts and things like that, and statistics and data and execution. When you put this into place, this is what happens as a result, which is not the lowest common denominator of appealing to a person's willingness to choose to go with that decision. And the thing that they do exceptionally well is they boil it down to the very simple slogans and talking points. Mm-hmm. It's not complicated. It's not, what about China? China's on the other side of the world. They don't even think about China. It's not about the logic and reason. It's only about the emotional cues. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, for lack of a better analogy, it's almost like trying to convince a female to like you. It's like you could be on paper the best suited person for them. There could be all these reasons why it would be logical, but you still have to make them feel like it's right. You have to appeal to their emotions and their feelings. And I think that that's something that the progressive left does exceptionally well. They're just like, it's like there could be a guy that's the greatest guy ever, but if he says the wrong thing or has one thing that's off, she'll completely cancel that dude out at the very beginning because of this one reason. And I think that that's the case. It's like, it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter about the economy, this far and away thing. The only thing that they think about is, a 13-year-old gets raped by her uncle and you make it have the kid. And now every single thing after that is completely, it's like, womp, 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 womp. They don't even hear it. So it's like, that's the type of thing where I feel like if I was to be a statesman and I could be the most pro-life person in the world, it's like, what's the pulse of the people? It's like, this is what these people are saying is this huge issue. And it's like, are you willing to say, give them complete control and let them crater every other thing so that you can stand firm on this one issue that you're pretty much not even winning anyways? And it's like, and then we have the freedom argument. We should be able to choose freedom. And they spin that whole thing on its head by saying a 13-year-old gets raped by their uncle and that's not freedom. So now vaccine stuff is out. Now every single thing that we say about freedom is completely null and void now. So it's like, if I was to be a statesman and I was going to win the war, not necessarily every battle, it's like, this would be a place that unfortunately you would have to concede on. You'd have to say, okay, 15 weeks, or in the case of some medical calamity, or you'd have to come to the table and say, we can't just have it all this way. And that is, I think, one in a litany of reasons why this was an L.
You know, it's like you said, Republican, the kind of that thought process is the guy trying to court a woman when you screw it up in the beginning, whereas the Democrats have it down the opposite way. I feel like it is the man trying to court the woman. The woman can literally fail on 78 levels, but you give the guy about 2 drinks and she could have been the most psycho, batshit crazy texter on the planet. 17 days later, and it's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday on the right time of the month, whatever. They pick up the phone and boom, they're back in. The Democrats they don't care. And that's why they win. That's why they get some. That's what I'm going to say. That's why they get some.
Well, they're
appealing. All right, stop comparing Democrats to women, please. Thank you. Democrats don't even know what a woman is. So stop comparing them.
Well, I didn't know. I couldn't come up with a better analogy. I just was trying to say that it's like the logic and reason. And I read this really good post where it was talking about how it's like Republicans have these very complicated, complex issues and explanations that make sense if you lay it out. But it's like, I would wager that 90% of people don't even pay attention to politics until the last 2 weeks, if that. I would bet a lot of them don't pay attention until the last 3 days. So it's like, you have 3 days and all they hear is what we just said before about abortion. They hear they're taking your Social Security away, and they see it on TV and they're like, Social Security is going away. That's it. It's like, they don't even think about all this stuff. And myself and all of you, as a person that pays an inordinate amount of attention to this, I thought I was really tuned into politics before I started doing social media stuff about this and making videos every day. I used to pay attention 10 hours a week. And what I know now in 40 hours a week, I didn't know anything at 10. Out of 100 people that I knew, I don't think I knew anybody that paid attention to politics as much as I did that wasn't 30 years older than me. So it's like any person that's under 40 years old, it's like, is that person paying attention more than 10 minutes a week at all? No, they're not. Yet that makes up this massive voting block. That is why all those college kids go there. That's why all those college kids fall for it. And all of the younger people are in the bag. And it's like they've said, this is how you lost. So it's like, how are you going to appeal to those people?
Plus,
but Bobby, to your
student debt. Sorry, Dave.
No. I mean, to Bobby's point, I mean, it's the headlines, right? It's it's the feeling of those headlines, the marketing of it behind it all.
Yep.
And that's the rub here that he keeps saying that they're really good at. They hit that over and over and over again, whether it's racism, sexism, now it's abortion. Like, they have these levers that they're just good at pulling, and because the electorate only pays attention for maybe 2 weeks, and then you have all the other useful idiots that are out there that are just voting one way without even doing any kind of research. This is what you have. But even with that, right, even with all those things and the media in their pocket and the educational institutions and all these things, they still are just squeaking by the skin of their teeth. And that's why I think if we make a few strategic changes and start paying attention more and start selling that feeling ourselves, that we could really make a huge pivot here and make a big impact, for the plus, moving forward.
So, one thing that sorry to cut you off. One thing that really kind of bums me out, and it's not even about me, but it's like, there's 300,000 people that follow my channels collectively across and growing. I do a couple million views a month across all of my channels and whatnot. There's all these different tentacles. Not a single representative in any race so much as reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to post something about this? Or like, did you see that? Not a single. Not a single one. Not even nothing. Even when I tag them, not a single one of them. And it's like, I have 300,000 people. And it's like, we know that all these other media distribution points are trash. How come somebody didn't say, hey, would you come and speak at a rally? Hey, would you come and do this? Would you talk about that? Not a single person even so much as asked me to do it. And it's like, you got millions of dollars in these coffers for these races, and then you have no social media people being used. Meanwhile, you have Biden, you have now this, you got a trans star, you got a young activist, all in the White House. Nobody ever asked. I didn't see that many people in the White House. I didn't see that many people involved in any of these races. So it's like, this is a marketing strategy gone awry. And the other thing that's so hard about the Republican Party, whatever, is like, I don't understand how Chuck Grassley runs for a 6-year position at 89 years old and wins. I don't understand how Mitch McConnell still has a job. I don't understand how any of these people that have done absolutely nothing for decades upon decades still have a job. I don't understand why people still like Ted Cruz. I don't understand why these people that do absolutely nothing, that sell us out to the Ukraine, that are in a lot of ways no better than any leftist or any leftist or progressive Democrat, why these people are all in there too. It just leads me to believe that's like, there's nobody on our side. The very few people that were on our side, they didn't even win because they were in some state where it took 8 days to count the ballots, and then they lose mysteriously in the last second. It's like, it just seems like such a futile effort. And then compounded on top of that, the Republican Party is such a like sleepy, old-timey, garbage institution that does absolutely nothing to utilize us. It's like when I went to CPAC, and I went to CPAC and I'm like, this is not youthful. This is not, I don't feel welcome here at all. And I'm out here fighting for all the stuff this represents. And it's like, I would wager on the left side of things that theirs is much more geared towards that young, youthful, energetic voter and emotionally manipulating them, but still they understand who they're marketing to. And I think that's one of many reasons why we keep losing.
I literally thought, if I decide to just, F around a little bit and say, maybe I'll run for, I don't know, like a random independent ticket for president, just for shits and grins, 2024, 2028, I would literally just go, if I don't have the budget and I want to be independent, I would go to every social media influencer and see if they would essentially campaign for me. I don't think you'd win, but I think you would get more votes than the Green Party does. I mean, in all reality, our country is so thirsty for something different. So before, and we'll talk about some of the undermining with Ukraine and all that with FTX. This will be an hour show, so we got about 25 minutes left. But speaking of the levers that Dave brought up, one of the levers was Amazon. I'm drawing a blank. Some of the other major companies, they laid on Netflix. They laid people off the end of last week, beginning of this week. They waited to show the definite signs of the recession, and the biggest one of them is the student loan forgiveness. There was judges across the country. There were states that were trying to impede the process. And if somebody can somebody better explain why this Texas ruling is different than the other rulings that are essentially making the student loan forgiveness halted? Does anybody know the specifics?
I do not know.
Okay. So the basics are because I don't know it fully either, but I do know that this is different than the 5 states that tried to essentially file an injunction. That was a hold process. Whereas this one is a judge actually finding it unconstitutional, which means that it then will escalate to the courts. This one will be held for a while. And let's also look at the timing. I don't think our federal government is going to care so much to fight it as they did before. They're going to file an appeal, but it is still a different process than the other filing from the 5 states. So I just think it's a big deal that student loan forgiveness has been halted.
This whole thing's going to fall by the wayside just as quickly as the Paul Pelosi story fell by the wayside. Like, Joe Biden and the administration knew damn well from day one that this was not going to fly and it was not going to get passed and it was going to get struck down by the Supreme Court or some other federal judge, and it was never going to happen. It was a ploy to buy votes, and it's exactly to Bobby's point before. It's the feeling, it's the emotion, it's designed for that bleeding heart liberal who says, oh yeah, let's forgive the debt for all these students who have all this money that they owe, like let's get rid of it for them, let's protect abortion. Like, it's that feeling again, and that's what it did. And it got, I mean, look at the youth vote that happened in the midterms. It's
another one of those
completely parallel.
Mar-a-Lago. I think it was Dave somebody said it earlier. Mar-a-Lago, I mean, literally to this point, you would think there'd be some indictments. You would think there'd be something. They found nothing but the leftist viewer and the fact that the mainstream media is going to completely just report one side and not have any retractions right now. No updates because there are no updates, except for maybe we shouldn't have placed so much stock in it. I think that's a big issue, Bobby.
Because it's all part of the marketing. That's why these demons, I keep saying it because it's true. These people are demons. That's why these demons, that's what they do. It's like the student loan, like the president doesn't have the legal authority to write at the stroke of a pen to give money away to forgive student loan debt. Nancy Pelosi said it out of her own face years ago. She was just like, the president can't do that. And it's like, there's videos of this person saying it. And then here we are years later. And just like Dave just said, it's like, this is a fake marketing strategy to get all those people in. The thing that the young people don't understand is they haven't been screwed by somebody promising them something and then taking it away at the last second. That hasn't happened to them enough times. So they're so easily emotionally manipulated. And it's just like the Paul Pelosi thing. I was telling my chiropractor today, it's like, you mean to tell me that 99% of people never heard of Paul Pelosi in their life, didn't even know that Paul Pelosi even existed, other than if you knew he was an insider trading demon getting $100 million worth of the best stock trades in the entire planet. 2 years ago, no one even knew this guy existed. Yet mysteriously, a guy with $150 million gets arrested for driving drunk a month ago. The first time most people ever even heard of him. And then 1 month later, someone mysteriously breaks into his house that's blanketed in cameras, but they didn't see the camera. And the guy that said that he let the police in the door, that guy gets fired or laid off from MSNBC. Then mysteriously, it's like, don't you think if there was video evidence of this guy breaking in, that would have been on the 9 o'clock news that day? They would have been like, look, Trump protester J6, look, he's wearing a MAGA hat, breaking in the window. It's like, that would have been everywhere. So it's like, this is just another piece of the marketing strategy. Joe Biden himself said that guy represented January 6th all over again. And every single one of these demon backbone spineless news pundits are like, this is reminiscent of J6. He came in the house and he said, where's Nancy? Who says that this guy said, where's Nancy? What person would tell you that that's what he said? Paul Pelosi, if he even said this, could have said, the guy walked in and said, Donald Trump called me directly on the phone yesterday and told me to come and bash your skull in with a hammer. That's what Trump called me personally. And they would have been like, Donald Trump called this guy. Who said that he said, where's Nancy? We don't even know that happened. It probably didn't happen at all. So it's just like, this is just yet another piece of the big machine. And I think that the most telling of it all is something that I heard recently from a guy in the media business. He said, the Democratic Party does not control the media. The media controls the Democratic Party. The media and the corporations that own those media conglomerates, that own the distribution of information all around the whole world, they run the Democratic Party. Because if the Democratic Party doesn't do what they say, they will destroy them using the exact same apparatus that they use to destroy the right. So it's like, if they say, you guys will push abortion, you'll push all of this stuff. If you don't do it, well, we'll push Trump. We'll push whoever else. Or we'll destroy you like we did your Andrew Cuomo's of the world, and then we'll find a new demon to install. Here comes Kathy Hochul out of nowhere. No one ever heard of her. No one ever elected her. Yet now she's the first female governor of New York. Happens to win.
Barack Obama.
Right. So it's like the apparatus that runs the world is not the Democratic Party. It's not the progressive left. It is the corporations that own them. And the Republican Party is out here fighting this battle while they have control of all of the information distribution points, including the exact same mechanism that we're talking on now. And if we were saying anything that really could get them, they wouldn't let us say it. So it's like,
So that you brought up it's an NBC anchor, the one that actually first reported the story. Out of all the stuff with Paul Pelosi, and this has to be brought up, this is a guy that's been with NBC for decades, I believe. He's one of their longest standing reporters. He reported the news, and he has been gone from the news for 11 days since this came out. That is what fascist and communist countries do to somebody that misreports. Story was retracted within a couple hours, and he has disappeared off the face of the media universe. That is, out of all the outcomes of that, it's as scary as it gets. That is something that you saw in Russia in the 1980s. Like, that's bad. That's
bad. And to Bobby's point, I mean, this is why Twitter is why they're losing their minds over this, why they're fleeing and why they're, going after him and attacking him. They're all driving his cars, but once he stepped in and played in their sandbox, like, he's done.
Right. Well, like, think about like Whoopi Goldberg, who, again, a merchant of the darkness, literal demon, possessed demon. And when I say that, I don't mean it from like a biblical sense. I just mean like this person sold their soul to the darkness. There's no doubt about it. It's clear as day. But it's like Whoopi Goldberg comes out and says, I'm going to get off Twitter for a time because Elon's crazy. Whoopi Goldberg gets paid by a huge media corporation that owns the television show that she makes $8 million a year on. She's allowed to push her book on there. She's allowed to push her acting career on there. She's allowed to funnel all of her income streams through there. So it's like, do you think that she just decided to get off Twitter? Or do you think they'd be like, hey, Whoop, why don't you get off Twitter and we'll make a big deal of it? No, she's like, okay. She sold her soul to the darkness. That's what they all are like. So it's like they are all in a machine where it's like you will be anointed and you will be your stock will be artificially raised and you'll be flush with cash and fame. And we will not touch you so long as you mindlessly regurgitate what we tell you to say and do. And as soon as you come at the crown, you will be destroyed. And I think that is the clearest understanding that I have of every single thing that we see in the front-facing corporate bought and paid for media.
Yeah, look at Sharon Osbourne.
Right.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
How so? Because once in a while goes right.
They destroyed her though. They destroyed her, kicked her off the show. Yeah. Okay. Tucker did like a whole thing about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on to essentially our final topic, the FTX scandal, which I mean, I don't watch a ton of MSNBC and CNN, but when I look it up, it's very hard to find on those. This is literally only being covered by people like us. Fox obviously is covering it, and the Newsmaxes of the world. You're not finding it anywhere else, which I think is mind-boggling because this is a huge deal, and we're learning more stuff about it now. Does anybody want to take the head on this FTX Sam Bankman-Fried story? Bobo?
That would be a negative, Nancy.
I think that there's a lot of people that are doing really good coverage on this, and I think that the truth will come out over time, like all very complicated Ponzi scheme, again, merchant of the darkness type behavior.
All that's worried about, on the balance sheet.
Where's that coming? Oh, sorry, hold on.
Anthony Russo.
I didn't even know I wasn't even sharing the video.
That's
I don't know how that even came out.
I thought that was the puppet masters being like, that's it.
That's it. Show's over.
Destroy him. I think there's a lot of people doing a lot of good reporting on this, but I would wager that the simplest answer typically is the correct answer. It's the same as the Paul Pelosi. You don't have to be a genius to look at that situation objectively in context and say, there is no way that this happened in the way that they're saying. It's the same type of thing where it's like, you believe that a paper passport fell out of an airplane on 9/11 and was found 3 blocks from the World Trade Center perfectly intact. You believe that happened. A paper passport fell out of a plane mysteriously. And it's like, even if you can connect the dots on 96% of things, if 4% of things make absolutely no sense at all, I would wager that you probably got bamboozled on a big chunk of the 96%. So it's like, I would wager very simply that this Bankman-Fried kid was a fall guy, that they laundered money to the Ukraine, which they've been doing since the beginning of time, that all the stuff that they're talking about using taxpayer dollars to send through FTX, of which they got to benefit, and then he funneled it right back to the Democratic Party. And I would wager that when the dust settles, this dude somehow gets off for it, and they'll find some way to maybe act like they're gonna take him to task on it and bring him to court, and maybe they'll put him in jail, but then they'll quietly let him out after a very short term, and him and his family and everybody else around him will be rich forever. I bet he's just a fall guy to take the heat off of this huge laundering operation.
I think he's gone. I mean, it sounds like he's gone. Like, it sounds like he's disappeared to some island somewhere. There's flight stuff that nobody really knows who he is. I randomly don't watch that Nas Daily guy very much, but I saw this one. It caught my eye. It said the most giving man in the world. And this was like a year and a half ago, and he created crypto, and I watched it. He's clearly somewhere on this. It seems like he might be on the spectrum of one kind. Like, he might just have Asperger's or something. He's a very socially awkward guy, probably brilliant. And yes, he might be a fall guy. So I'm actually going to bring up what Barb shared with me. Oh, that's Ryan Salame's. Hold on, I grabbed the wrong one. Which it also plays a role. Ryan Salame is he is the Republican donor that is the co-CEO, which is something that the original stories that we all heard didn't really bring up much, which I find interesting. But here is the actual donors from, or what Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF they call him, how much he gave. Like, here's 5,000, 2,000, no big deal. But then you actually see some of the big dumps lower down. $104,000 to the DCC, 109, 36. He also did this during the last election as well. So these are massive amounts. So it turns out this guy is the second largest donor. Here's DNC Services. I mean, these are huge $100,000 donations, $500,000 donations for the Democratic National Committee. These are all separate. And then you've got PACs included as well. He did donate to, I think, one Republican, but here's $4 million to protect our future. That was the big one that I was looking for, that is run also by the the major Democrat campaigns, including the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, where they get to divvy it up as they please. This is massive amounts of funding that all originated, like Bobby said. FTX is a specific trading service for crypto. Underneath that, they have their own coin. They created this coin, which is what generated so much capital. That coin generated mass capital. And with that mass capital, it turns out there was no true fungible there was no fungible token. There was nothing really there. It was smoke and mirrors. So it is now being deemed a Ponzi scheme. The way we know that is now that somebody called in on their debts. How this all, the cards all fell. Somebody in the industry said, FTX is garbage, pull your money out, which caused people to start pulling their money out. And when there's not enough money in the coffers, in the ability for them to pay out, that's when it all comes crumbling down in a Ponzi scheme. That's what happened. The weird thing is with this Ponzi scheme is the way that it actually got turned into dollar bills was through Ukraine. This is proven. And then once it went through Ukraine, it came back to Sam Friedman's hands and this other guy, Salome, and it went into the DNC and then WinRed and the PACs that were controlled by Mitch McConnell. So you have got we wonder why the powers that be always get reelected, like the Mitch McConnells of the world, like the Chuck Schumers. It's because of this. The second biggest donor to Democrats behind George Soros was this guy, to break it all down. So.
Yep, that sounds about right. And and it just goes to show that this is just one of a million things that have come to light in recent days that show the true path of what's going on. And this guy was on stage with Bill Clinton. This guy was widely referred to as the machine, the media machine. He's on Fortune magazine. The media machine creates and anoints, uses, chews up and spits out when no longer useful. It's like, it makes absolutely perfect sense. And I would wager that this is happening in all walks of politics, not even just the Democratic Party. I would bet there's a whole lot of tremendous amounts of darkness that happen in the Republican Party as well. And it's just like, these people, they hate us. And the amount of money that the United States has and the amount of money that we pay in taxes is astronomical. And all of the problems that we have are all solvable with purely just the money that we already collect in taxes. Yet we ship it overseas to the Ukraine and all of this other stuff. But the problem is not so much that demons exist. The problem is that people don't care. The problem is that people are so easily emotionally manipulated by the talking point of the day that they are willing to bend down and let it happen and could care less about it. And it's like, no matter how many of these people we cycle out, people will always be able to be manipulated by money at the very top. And the entities and shadowy families that have been running the world for thousands of years will continue to find the weakest link and buy them out. And they'll be able to figure out ways to keep money in politics and keep these PACs doing things legally above board. And they'll find easily manipulatable fall guys like this Bankman-Fried guy, and the machine will continue to move along. But it's like the only reasonable solution to this is that if they can do all this stuff and get away with it, but then people will still say, I'm okay with choosing that, so long as they don't make a 12-year-old with the uncle, like as long as they don't make her do that, then it's like, if we can't convince these people, all hope is lost in terms of convincing people to vote a certain type of way. They are already in there in everywhere. And these politicians are dark on both sides. That's why it kills me sometimes that people be like, you're a Republican influencer. And it's like, am I a Republican influencer? Or am I just a person that likes freedom that these people happen to be talking about it more than the other side? I don't have a point, but whatever.
That is the point. Yeah, that is the point.
I just think it's fascinating that there's really a lack of this and now that there's Republican money going in, now they're realizing this Ryan Salame guy. I think maybe the left will start to cover it, but
yeah, but it's Anthony, it's pretty early, man. Like this thing has legs. Like this is not going away. Like this, I think this is one of those stories that if it's what everyone like us think it is, like it could be a game changer. Like it's not by accident that this guy started FTX 15 days after Biden announced his campaign to run for president. And then that year he got $10 million. And then you're telling me it's by accident that 3 days after the midterms are over, the whole thing goes belly up. I mean, it's just got too much legs. And there are people like us and people on the right and conservatives. It's not going to just disappear like the Paul Pelosi. No, it's not.
They're going to disappear. I've become so jaded and cynical.
You have.
I have, and
I agree with Mark, to be honest.
Obviously that started with my whole experience, right? But that's what was my initiation. That was my hazing into the world of politics and cover up and steamrolling and things just disappearing. They disappeared 2 human beings from the face of the earth and that was it. We were told to go away. And since then, I think I don't want to be this way, but I am discovering, and Dave, you have the pleasure of living with me and experiencing this along with me, but I don't think so. I call bullshit on that. I don't think that it would matter if freaking Zelensky got up and went live and said, you know what, FTX laundered money through me. I gave it to Clinton, to Biden, to Pelosi. I did this and that. I don't think it would matter if he had video of these guys saying it, rolling in the money. I don't think anything would matter. I think people would still be like, you're making it up. I think they're so because you called the red wave. I was like, I don't think so, honey. I don't think you need to simmer down with this red wave. It's not happening.
No, but that same electorate that just came out in droves, that younger electorate from 18 to 25. Those are the people that would be furious over something like this.
But they'll get over it as long as they can have an abortion. Or as long as somebody tells them that they're going to have free college.
It's the Wall Street protesters.
Or whatever.
The rich don't pay their fair share people. Like it's the entire Democratic Party. Like this would.
It's nothing. There's nothing. They're like untouchable.
Before we wrap, let me play this quick video, the one that the sound went over Bobby earlier, because I think it's interesting. This is actually at a Bloomberg event.
I love you, hon.
Own that all of us are worried about. Own that all of us are worried about. On the balance sheet of FTX is a line called Trump lose. And Sam was the second biggest donor to Democratic candidates.
I'm going to leave it to everybody else to draw their own conclusions about what you're saying here.
Right? Those are really, really ugly facts when you see a fraud of this magnitude having played out, and you find no regulators were there to prevent it. That's a really, really tough story.
We could talk for quite a while about FTX. Sadly, we don't have it.
So again, that's at the Bloomberg Economic.
But we're not going to. We could really dig into this, but Al, I don't think I'm going to. I think
right.
I guess he's been paid too.
But let's realize
they're at the Bloomberg conference.
Right.
I mean, it's like they're at the Bloomberg.
Allowed to talk about it. To be totally honest, I can't believe that it even got brought up. But there's a line item. This means there's a line item that says "beat Trump" on the balance sheet.
Well, the guy didn't engage, right? Like the guy said it, and he was waiting for the guy to say something. He's like, "I'll let you guys figure it out." It's like because he's getting paid. That's the whole point. It's like that guy's getting paid, so he's not going to interact. He's not going to let him go too far. And now they're painting that guy as like, they're like, oh, he wants DeSantis to win. He's bad too now. And it's like, is everybody just bad? It's like a lot of people are very bad. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, if you just say that everyone's bad all the time, no matter what, just because they're in some position of authauthority, it's like, we're
the four of us are domestic terrorists, according to right?
People said that people have been saying that I'm a GOP, like I'm some GOP plant. I'm like getting paid by the GOP to like push the party narrative. And I'm like, what the like
you're like, please pay me.
I was like, where is that check at? What are you talking about?
Right.
You were in the alien mask last night, Bobby, or a couple nights ago?
Yeah, last night.
Opposition mask.
Yeah, because I was like, I wanted to walk people back to how I got to where I was and what my operation was and why people were even listening to me at all. I'm like, if you think that I'm getting paid, it's like, you don't know what to trust. So I did what I wish that all of these Republicans had the stones and a little marketing and branding know-how to do. I identified a problem in the marketplace where people were questioning X. And then I came out in front of it and said, here's everything you could ever want to know ever. Play it back. I'll leave this here forever. I'll never delete it. You decide, and you just look at me and decide. When Ted Cruz and all those dudes voted against that burn pit bill, whatever thing, the fact that I had to go online and look for why they voted no on the burn pit pill payout or whatever, that I had to actively seek it. Meanwhile, every Democrat in America had a video up about these savage Republicans don't care about the military vets. They hate vets. Look at that. The fact that Ted Cruz could have said no on that and not made a press release, not made a video, not made an announcement, not explained to the people ahead of what was obviously going to happen, to me is a total error in marketing and branding. It's like marketing 101. These dudes are dumb. And that's what I'm saying. It's like they're all just bought and paid for. And it's kind of like Katie Hobbs. It's like, if you knew you were going to win, why would you even waste your time debating? Why would you even go out there and do it? Because they know that they're bought and paid for by the right people. So they don't even care. And that's the thing that makes me so sad about all of them, is that so many of them are just like, yep, sell everybody out, could care less. And how do you find people that don't do that? That I am still trying to figure out.
Katie Hobbs' interview on CNN or MSNBC was the best. Well, why aren't you doing? I mean, America deserves a debate. Arizona deserves a debate. Well, like Carrie she yells, and like it's just, I'm like, oh my God, this is a woman that could be governor, and she is now. This is a Valley girl governor. Anyways, before Barb gets mad that we are over the hour, we're gonna do our final. What's that? Are you good, Barb? Are you okay with being over by about 3 minutes? Is that all right?
I'm holding on. It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
Okay. I see all the wine you've had. Okay. Real quick, guys. Reminder, we've got thedrartisshow.com. Do BFD at checkout if you want to get the stuff that'll help you stay away from the coof. Doc's Viral Defense is what I always recommend. That's what I take because I've been on the road a whole bunch. And you know who Dr. Artis is, the anti-remdesivir guy. You know who he is. Check it out. Again, thedrartisshow.com. What else we got real fast? If you have any questions about Blunt Force Discussion, the show, go to bluntforcediscussion@gmail.com. I will do the best I can to answer who the guests are if you have questions about any of the products. And last but not least, another one. This one is free. It helps you out if you own a business. If you're eligible, just go to bit.ly/ERCBTC. These are employee retention credits. If you own a business that was affected by the pandemic in any way, shape, or form, even if it was supply chain, you might be eligible for this. Small business, big business. If you also want to get into this kind of business where you find businesses and you make 10% off of it, or 5%, whatever it is, essentially all people have to do is fill out a quick form, see if their business is eligible, and boom goes the dynamite. They get money in about 8 months, and they do all the paperwork for you. That is it, guys. All right, one round around the circle here. Final words, and what do you think Trump is announcing tonight? We'll start with Barb.
Oh, final words. Great. Dude, Trump could be announcing literally freaking anything. It could be anything. A, I'm going to run. B, I'm not going to run. C, here's all the evidence that, like Bobby used to say, he's going to jump from a helicopter out of the sky. He's going to do all this. Like, it could be freaking anything, or it could whatever. Like, who knows with that man? I'm not even going to pretend to guess what he's going to do. So I would just say these are hard times, man. They're hard times, no doubt. Our faith is being questioned. Our commitment is being questioned. Me personally, I don't know what this country is going to look like when all this dust is settled. But I do know at the end of my life, at the end of this battle, however it unfolds, I want to at least know that I fucking tried, and that's it. I just can't roll over and give up. I would rather just spend my life fighting this losing battle, if that's what it's gonna. I don't think we're gonna lose. But I don't know that we'll win in our lifetime. I don't even care about that. I just know I can't give up. I can't. We've given too much for this country. My family has. I'm not going to let it be for nothing. I care about it. It's special. I think we have a great thing going. I would encourage everybody here not to give up either. It's serious, but we can joke around about it and have fun with it. And we're going to stick together, hang together. That's how we're going to do it. Don't give up. We got a lot of good things going on. We do have a toehold now. It's hard to see. We did make some progress, especially in New York, even though Zeldin didn't win, which I really wanted him to. But we did make progress. We are getting there. 2024, if we do not give up, we can really swing the pendulum a little further, and that's where I'm going to leave it tonight.
Nice job, Captain Long-Winded. Just kidding. You're the one that wants to end this show to now. I'm just kidding. And Barb's gone. All right. Dave, what do you got?
I don't know, if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be on a Facebook live stream talking Republican, GOP, we the people type politics, I would say you're nuts. But here I am, and I'm here because there's something seriously wrong with what's been going on over the last decade. And I finally got to a point where it became passionate, right? I wanted to speak out. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to try to wake people up, slap the shit out of them, to be like, look what's happening. And sometimes you get beat up, like, you see what happened in 2020, and then now these midterms, you get excited, like people are waking up, and then you get down, right? But then you can get reinvigorated again and be positively optimistic when you watch what someone like Lee Zeldin did here in New York, and you actually saw it firsthand at 2 campaign rallies and the energy behind it and what he actually did with actually flipping seats. Like, he is the sole reason why we have the House now, why Republicans have the House. And I think it's a roadmap. I think it's a roadmap for all of us to continue to be positive and speak out about what matters most. And I think it's a roadmap for people who believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, the American dream, and American values, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I told Barb this a couple times, like, it's darkest before the dawn. And I thought it was darkest this election cycle, but maybe we're just not there yet. But we're going to get there. And I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Getting close to midnight on a full moon. Bobby Sauce, what do you got?
I agree with both of those statements. I think that sometimes it's hard to remember that, but yeah, I mean, I certainly am not going to just throw in the towel and give up. And I don't think that, I think that that's what they want you to do. It's like they beat you down and try to make you believe that there's no chance to win. And there's all these times in history that have proven that, that things that didn't seem possible have become possible as a result of people not giving up. So I'm big on that. As far as what Trump is going to announce, I saw this earlier in a meme. I think he's going to announce that cheesy crust pizza is back at Pizza Hut for a limited time. So I think that's the most likely thing that he's going to announce. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to announce the run for president, which is maybe good, maybe bad. I mean, it's like I'm so indifferent to it that the only thing that I can chalk this one up to is letting time play out. It's like, I think DeSantis is great. I think some of the stuff he's saying is not good. But really, I don't know. I don't know what effect we can have on that race. To me, I think the battle that I'm trying to fight is to try to convince your average everyday people and your moderates to maybe not choose the darkness as much. And I think that if I were to be a statesman and I was to be chirping at the Republican Party, I would say, I hope that you guys rework your marketing and branding and start incorporating the younger generations of people and not just letting them emotionally manipulate them and get them. And it's almost like in New York, it's like if Lee Zeldin listened to what everybody says and you can't convert a state like New York, then we wouldn't have had, just like you guys said, all the progress that was made there. So I think people need to dismiss what the past says can't be done. And I think that the moderates and the people that don't vote at all is still the primary target of people to convert.
My favorite was the Babylon Bee said Trump is set to announce that he bowled a perfect 300 game on.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Bobby, everybody can find you at Take Naps. That's pretty much the only spot. Or where's the new podcast at?
All the links are on followbobby.com.
Followbobby.com. That's where you're going to go. I too think Trump is going to announce tonight. I know I talked to Cash earlier today, and the guys in the jail that are the ultra Trumpers, still to this day, by the way, which boggles my mind. They think that tonight is the night that he is going to. The storm is coming, is what they're saying in the J6 jail. Which is, man, they are sticking to that March 17th date or whatever the heck the QAnon is saying. But
He's gonna come out and announce and say, "I'm Q."
Yeah,
Good night.
Yo, that would be sick. That would actually be enjoyable to watch. Then it would be interesting. He just comes out and he just says, "I'm Q," and he just leaves. That would be
After
awesome.
he does the YMCA dance.
Yeah.
I think he's going to announce. I think we all know that. But with that said, what everybody said is pretty accurate. There was that moment last week where I was like, "This sucks." I'm like, what to do? How are we going to lose? What more can we lose? And at least we've got the House to stop some of the big tech bills that could go, the Supreme Court that could go in one direction. I think at least we've got stopping power with the Republican Party. But at this point, Bobby and I have agreed on this point. It has been marketing since day one, and we lose the marketing game 10-2, 10-1. Like, we lose just bigly. Yeah. And that needs to change. And the way that it changes is us continuing to do this, and then the Republican side embracing those that have followings like Bobby's and bigger, and become part of something that creates a movement of unity and doesn't play what Trump is doing right now, which is the whole Trump against the world. It has to be us against them at this point to get some sanity back. Dave, go ahead.
Last point, like, that's what made Trump so effective, was the marketing side of it, right? The attention, the entertainment. And that, my friends, is exactly what Ron DeSantis is good at too. And that's why Florida is the way it is. And so that's another thing to pay attention to.
100%. With that said, guys, take it easy. Have a great evening. And we will catch you next time on Truth Will Set You Free. Deuces.